There's so much information available on the internet that sometimes it can be hard for people to interpret everything that they get. I'm a firm believer in spending all the time that's necessary in order for patients and their families to fully understand what's going on to make a good decision.
Hi, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, January 24th. Let's talk about the law in Arkansas. Last week, the Arkansas Supreme Court reversed more than 2 decades of precedent and said that the Constitution means what it says. The state of Arkansas cannot be sued in Arkansas courts. Dissenters in that decision said it would have an astounding impact, and it already has. It has had such an impact, in fact, that today a group announced its formation to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot this year that would again allow the state legislature to waive constitutional sovereign immunity when it chose to do so. That was the practice the Supreme Court outlawed. Well, already in the last week, we've seen a case against the Geology Commission dismissed. We see the likelihood of a case over the Canva ban being dismissed. We see the likelihood of a case by the city of Little Rock over campaign finance and the mayor's race being dismissed. Lots of fallout, and that's just the beginning. Can you sue over the FOI anymore? It doesn't seem likely that you can under the terms of this amendment. And then there was this interesting development yesterday. Wendell Griffin, the circuit judge from Little Rock, who's been ruled off death penalty cases by the Supreme Court and has sued in federal court over that ruling, had this happen to him in a court filing yesterday. The Supreme Court, replying to his argument that his case should go forward, said the case should be dismissed because of, guess what, sovereign immunity. And they cited their own decision in their own court filed just last week to support their point of view. This is home cooking on the judicial level. Certainly it's kind of amazing, but it's the law now in Arkansas, so a lot more to come on that. Other headlines: this morning in Clarksville, the city utility there unveiled a solar powered electricity producing plant that's going to handle 25% of the city's energy, a really forward-thinking development. Speaking of power production, the Sierra Club of Arkansas said today that the big coal-burning power plants in Arkansas operated by Energy are being shown in a recent report to create pollution in the city of Memphis. Of course, Arkansas, through Attorney General Leslie Rutledge and the EPA, they don't care much about ozone. They're fighting new rules that would clean up the air around Memphis and Arkansas as well. Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families today issued a new report critical of Governor Asa Hutchinson's budget. They said what little increase in spending there is for Medicaid, and it's not as big as it should be. He's putting money aside for tax cuts, which were already cut in 2013, 15, and 17. There's virtually no increase in spending for agencies that serve children, including the state education department. News in courts elsewhere: a lawsuit was filed in Kentucky contesting Medicaid decision there by the governor to require work for people to get Medicaid in Kentucky. That's exactly what Asa Hutchinson wants to do in Arkansas. He doesn't have federal approval yet. A lawsuit can be expected here if the federal government approves our plan as expected. The Little Rock Police Department, we learned today, has suspended Sergeant Willie Davis for 10 days. He's a Black Police Officers Association officer who managed to make public an allegation about use of racial slurs by a police recruit. For doing that, he's been suspended for 2 days. Kind of an amazing thing. I guess they said he should have talked quietly to a supervisor, not written a letter that was allowed to get into public domain. In national news about the big income tax bill that Republicans say has been such a benefit, Kimberly Clark, maker of Huggies and other paper products, announced that it was going to cut its worldwide workforce by 13%, 5,000 jobs. It employs 700 people in Arkansas. That could mean the loss of 70 or more jobs in Arkansas in the job cut. Why? Because it's making so much money from the income tax cut, it can boost its profit margin without continuing the same level of operation. So here's a tax cut that costs 5,000 people a job. Great economic development tool. And finally this, Blue Hog Report, the Democratic blogger Matt Campbell, who loves to dig into the public records to come up with interesting stories, came up with a good one today that's the talk of the Capitol. He found 2 divorce cases on the public record of 2 Republican state representatives, Laurie Rushing and Ken Henderson. Filings in one of those cases suggest perhaps they had a relationship that went beyond professional in their jobs as legislators, including perhaps on a taxpayer financed trip out of state. It's the filings got worse. Henderson decided to fight back at his wife's allegations in the case and talk about her mistreating Laurie Rushing, perhaps even assaulting her at a funeral service once. Well, this is a bad thing. The news here, I think, as Blue Hog reported, is these are family values Republicans behind this. And also one other note of hypocrisy, Laurie Rushing, shortly before she filed her divorce suit, tried to pass in the legislature a bill that required people when they filed a lawsuit to use their full names and not just initials, as some people do to try and cover up their identities in, for example, divorce cases. Well, when Laurie Rushing filed her divorce case, she filed it as L.J. Rushing. So there you go. We're resisting here, as you can tell. I'm Max Brantley. We'll be back tomorrow.